Forgiveness does not mean that you have to let the person that you have forgiven back into your life.
Hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host, Keegan, and this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics, and I've got some questions for you today. Are you tired of holding on to resentments? Do you need to make some extra room in your head? Well, today's guest is Hanna Kok, a healer, a coach, blending over 30 years of mind, body, spirit integration, and she is the founder of The Life You Want and creator of the iThrive web app. So, Hanna, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for this opportunity, and also to your listeners, thank you for being here.
It's always great to have someone on the show, especially whenever they're helping other people just get better, because it's not often that we come across someone that is just willing to share stories, right? And willing to share wisdom just out of the good of their heart. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from and how you came about creating the iThrive app?
Oh yes, I love talking about the iThrive app. It's my so close to my heart. So I'm from the Netherlands originally, just in case people are wondering what my accent comes from. And my accent is also a bit different, mixed, because I've been living in Southern Africa for 40 years now. So my English is now a mixture of Dutch and South African English. And I've been, as you mentioned, been into the self-development and especially the mind-body-spirit connection field for over 30 years now. And how I got to doing this iThrive app is laziness. I am a great fan of laziness. Laziness is fantastic as long as you use it to inspire yourself to do something more effectively, because that is what, if you have resistance of doing something, that means there could be something better. And that's what I did. Yeah, so you know how people tell you should use affirmations if you want to change your life, and you have to write them and you have to say them, and it's like, oh, so much hard work.
Yeah.
And so that's where it started. I was too lazy to do that. And then on top of that, I'm trained in 3 modalities. I'm trained as a educational kinesiologist, so that is, or brain gym for in easy words, but it's about using the body to create a shift in your mind and in your attitude. And then I'm trained as an allergy practitioner, how to get rid of your allergy symptoms so that you don't have to avoid things, those allergens. You can be in harmony with them. And then the third modality is being a medical intuitive. And when I was trained as an allergy practitioner, then I was taught, okay, you got to work on the body and you got to go through this whole process, and you got to go through this yourself first before you can work on other people. And it was pretty hard because you work on something and then you have to avoid this food group for 25 hours. And it's not always that easy. Like, you're not allowed to eat protein for 25 hours, not touch it or anything. And then the next week you work on something else. And it was hard work and time consuming. And then I learned from the theta healing that, hey, you know what? If I have a certain mindset, I will struggle to absorb certain food groups. So if I don't feel nurtured, I will struggle to absorb protein. Or if I don't feel loved, I don't absorb vitamins so well. And then I started making these recordings and playing them back. So instead of saying all these affirmations, I would just play them back subliminally while I was sleeping. And then when I gave this to other people to use, their allergies would go away. Yeah.
Weird.
So, and then I've got others as well for addiction and for hormones and all sorts of things. But the iThrive app came out of laziness because I did not want to write these affirmations or say them. And I also didn't want to spend so much time on them. And so I developed something that I can do while I sleep.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. So it's like, would you say that it's similar to like the positive affirmations that someone tells themselves in the mirror?
Yes, but have you noticed with the positive affirmations, there are two things that
Okay.
makes it really hard. One is
Gotcha.
if you tell yourself something you don't believe, like I love myself or I'm wealthy, and then the back chat goes like, yeah, who you kidding? Look at your wallet. I mean, it's empty and the bank account is red. I mean, don't kid yourself. You're not wealthy. And so saying these things actually remind you of what you don't have and you feel worse afterwards.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of rubbish inside of our head that we tell ourselves. And if we don't take that out, then the new positive affirmations cannot go in. And so with the iThrive app, and this is also what I have as a gift for your listeners, with your iThrive app, there's a lot of things we take out, like your anger and your resentment and your frustration and all those things that you've been building up. They are removed with special release statements. You release them, and then there is room for the new stuff to go in. Yeah. And as I said, for the listeners, then I have a specific topic around hormones, and we can talk a bit more about hormones just now, but a specific one for hormones, for the unisex hormones that we have, like your serotonin and dopamine, and there's so many that we have. And they can get recordings for those hormones to balance them out.
Huh. Gotcha. So you're saying that with what you do, you're helping clear out the rubbish before we install the new programming, essentially, right?
Exactly. Because, I mean, imagine you have poisonous water and you can put lovely stuff in, but it still tastes, or it's still poisonous and tastes bad. No matter how much sugar you add or flavorants, if that bitterness is in there, you cannot mask it. So you want to remove that first before you put the nice stuff in.
So how do you start actually removing it though? Because a lot of the stuff is usually just really like deep-seated beliefs that come from childhood or just repeated experiences over and over and over, So how do you actually uninstall that kind of stuff? How do you delete that rubbish?
Well, with the theta healing, what we do is that's where spirit comes in, because our spirit is, and that is not in a religious way. You can do it in, whatever fits in your religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs. But when you call on spirit, first of all, you can ask for help to remove it. But that is not enough. If we have a belief, for example, I am worthless. Say we have that belief. A lot of people feel like, or I'm not enough. A belief like that. And then that belief, we're holding on to it because it's actually working for us. And people say, no, that's bull dust, man. That doesn't work for me. Yes, it does. Because if I believe I'm worthless, I will know I can now go out of my way to prove to myself and others how valuable I am. So I develop kindness and being considerate of other people, or I work very hard. It's like a motivator. I do all these wonderful things to prove to myself that I am valuable instead of worthless. And so the subconscious mind does not want to let go of that belief because it's afraid that you're going to lose those virtues that you got out of it.
Ooh. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so with my iThrives, I have in there things like I will continue to be kind and helpful, and I'll continue to be motivated even without the belief I'm unworthy.
Okay.
And then, so now the subconscious knows, okay, I can now let go of that belief because I am going to continue to be kind and helpful and all of those wonderful things. And then I can let go of the belief that I'm unworthy and accept the belief that I'm worthy.
Okay.
So yeah, these iThrives is not just like a 6-minute loop of words that go around. One set can be like 1.5 to 2 hours, but you don't have to listen to them subconsciously. You just put them on softly in the background. You can listen to them if you want to, but you don't have to.
Gotcha. And so you're saying that it also works really, really well whenever you're asleep, right? So, because that's whenever your subconscious is really taken over, right?
Absolutely. Because when you sleep, or even when you are playing them softly in the background during the day, the conscious mind, which is that bitchy back chat, is bypassed. And it just slips in through the back door, and you're then way more susceptible to those new ideas. Definitely. Definitely.
Okay, so whenever we're sitting here doing these kind of beliefs and switching everything up, how does that really work with like hormonal changes or like the neurotransmitters and stuff like that? Because isn't that something that you do medicine or food or exercise for? And it's not just a mind game, right?
No, wrong. It's not just food and exercise, but that is what people think. People think that I can only change bodily things by changing my diet and lifestyle changes. But what if you're already doing those things and it's not working? Or what if you don't want to do those things because you just don't like them? You don't like to eat those foods, or you don't like to exercise or something like that. Now, I'm not saying that exercise and is not important. I love my exercise and I like eating healthily, but you do it because you want to and not because you have to. So how is that connection? Let me explain. There, you can explain it on different levels. Have you heard of meridians? You know, that when you go, so for your listeners, you know, when you go to the acupuncturist, they stick these needles all over the place to get the life force flowing through your body through the meridians. Like we have the arteries and the veins for the blood, we have the meridians for the life force. And we have a certain amount of life force going through the body every day, but those meridians are like hose pipes. They can be contracted or they can be opened, and certain beliefs will contract the flow or inhibit the flow of that meridian, and others will open them. And there are 14 major meridians, and 12 of them are linked to your organs, and one of them is called the circulation 6 meridian. It's linked to the heart sac. And the thing that inhibits the flow of that meridian is holding grudges. And the thing to open it up is forgiveness.
And holding grudges, it can be one of those things that weigh down a lot of people, and it leads to really bad things in a lot of cases. And so forgiveness is usually one of those things that people will just say, well, you just go and say, do you forgive me? Or I forgive you. And that's kind of it, right? But there's so much more to forgiveness. So how do you define forgiveness, and how do you lead people to it? Because a lot of people don't know what to do with it.
Well, let's first talk about what is not forgiveness. So forgiveness does not mean that we condone people's behavior. Forgiveness does not mean that you have to let the person that you have forgiven back into your life. Forgiveness does not mean that you have to talk to that other person. You don't have to forgive them in person, and you never have to talk to them again if you don't want to. Doesn't mean that you have to forget what happened. You can learn from what happened. So those are just some things of what is not forgiveness. It's also not something that you do for somebody else. Like, I'm setting you free because I've forgiven you. You know what? That other person, it's also not a method. Holding back forgiveness is also not a method of punishing somebody else or keeping them at arm's length, because those are reasons why people don't forgive people. Because they think, well, it's a way of protecting myself.
Yeah.
But the opposite is true. If I hold on to my grudge towards a person, first of all, it's like trying to poison that other person while drinking the poison myself. I'm the one that have these poisonous emotions running through the body that are affecting my cells in my body, making me ill. The other person might not even know that I'm upset with them. They got on with their life, right?
Yep.
That other person can even be dead. I've seen that people are still holding on to a grudge that somebody died 10 years ago or something that happened to their ancestors, you know.
Yeah.
So what is forgiveness then, if it's not those things that I just said? First of all, it is about accepting what happened. It happened. I can't change it. I don't have to approve of it, but I've got to acknowledge that it happened. And I have to choose to let it go. However, the interesting thing is that people treat us the way we treat ourselves. So, if I treat myself badly, like to come back to what I talked about earlier about feeling unworthy, if I feel I'm unworthy or unlovable, I'm going to attract people to me that will treat me just like that. They won't value me, they won't really love me, and now I'm upset with them because they are treating me the way I was treating myself.
Okay.
So if I want to change things, the key is to start changing me and the way I treat myself. And that's also another reason why I created the iThrives, because I'm now starting to change the way I think about myself and about my life, and then other people start treating me differently as well.
Gotcha. But isn't it so strange that even though we may treat ourselves and talk about ourselves a certain way because we think that we're unworthy and all that, but we develop these virtues to attract people that may actually treat us like we're worth it, and it backfires? Is that kind of how that goes?
That's a really good point. This is a really good point. So it is backfiring. Let me put that clear. So if I feel unworthy, then I will want to prove with my kindness that I'm worthy. And I will attract somebody that will be demanding of me to be super kind. And that's when you get your abusive partner or this, what is this narcissist that everybody talks about that you end up having in your life. You attracted that. I know it's really hard to hear, but if you can hear what I've got to say, then you know the power is in your hand, because people are our mirrors. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I don't like that reflection that I am looking at, well, who do I have to change? Me. If I don't like the way I look, I've got to change my hair or my makeup or put other clothes on. That's the only way my reflection is going to change. So if I want to attract people that do value me, it can only happen if I value me.
Okay. So, man, and so that makes it really hard for some people though, because doesn't that carry the same thing as if we're shedding off some old beliefs? Because maybe that person that is treating us badly actually is doing something good at the same time, and we're afraid of losing that security possibly, or is it just familiarity that we're holding on to in that sense?
It's
And of course,
definitely, it's familiarity. Yeah, carry on.
oh, I was going to say it's different for each situation, but like the general vibes, I guess. But like you said, familiarity is kind of what keeps us stuck, I guess.
Definitely, familiarity does keep us stuck. However, if we change, then there is one of four things that can happen to that relationship. That other person could disappear gracefully out of our lives. Now, if it is a partner or a child or a person we really care about, we don't want that option. And I can tell you now, I often have seen relationships improve that were abusive without having to leave.
Hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
So, and I have seen it more than once. I see it over and over again. Even sexual abuse, physical abuse, it stops like that when you change how you treat yourself and keep investing in you and treating yourself with the respect that you want, you will get it from others.
Okay.
So, the whole thing is about start treating yourself the way you want to be treated. Now that people say, well, I can't do that because it's expensive. Doesn't have to be expensive. How do we treat ourselves with the way we want to be treated? Make some time for yourself to be quiet.
Ooh.
Use the iThrives that you can get as a free gift from me. And in there is also a little course on forgiveness. If they want that, it is in there as an extra bonus.
Okay.
So those are already two things that cost nothing. You know, make time for you. Voice your opinion, not in an aggressive way. Just say, look, this is what you want. This is what I want. How can we bring the two together? But most people don't even voice what they want. They don't even know what they want.
Ooh. Yeah, then that's hard to do, right? If you don't know what you want, then it's hard to even find a voice. And if you feel like you don't have a voice, then you may feel like you're not worthy of finding something to even have a voice about.
You summed it up perfectly there. That is, now you got a really bad loop going on there if you in that phase. And the only way out, if you want to change your life, the only way out is from the inside out. You got to change inside, the way you think about yourself, the things you focus on. That is going to determine how your tomorrow looks like.
And so it's not something, again, that's like a pill where you can just do it once and you're good to go and like everything like that, because everyone nowadays is looking for that quick fix, you know? So, but that's kind of the thing too, is that if we're in this hole, it didn't happen overnight either, right? It's something that we had to build, unfortunately.
You know what is so interesting now, thinking of the pill and then being in a hole. When you use a pill to solve your problems, say you're not in a deep hole and you're miserable, and you take a pill, all what happens, you're still in that hole. You just don't realize it. And then you either have to take that pill for the rest of your life, which often happens, or what more likely is going to happen, you're going to get into a deeper hole because you're still digging, you know. And this is what we see is if you have, say, hormonal problems, because you're having grudges and you're not forgiving. Now, this is something that eats at you. I always say it's not so much about what you eat. It's more about what eats you. Right?
Okay.
So if you have these things that are eating at you and you don't give it attention, you don't resolve this conflict, it's just going to grow and fester. It's like a wound. If you got a splinter, you don't take the splinter out, it's going to pus and get really ugly. And if you just keep putting plasters on and maybe taking some anti-pain and stuff, but you don't remove that splinter, now that could turn into gangrene and you could lose a leg, you know. And it's the same a lot of times when you hold on to a grudge and you start with small things. It might be you can't sleep. That's why it often starts. That's an indication that something is bugging you. You just take a sleeping pill so you forget about it, but it's still there. Now your hormones go out of balance, or you'll have another minor health problem. You don't address it, you just take some pills. Now it has to come back because it's your soul trying to give you screaming at you for attention to resolve this, and you don't do it. And then you'll end up with a major illness that grinds you to a halt, and everything stops because you have to deal with this major illness. And that can be prevented if you deal with your issues while they're relatively small.
Oh, yeah. And it's really interesting that it just builds up like that, because it doesn't really just sit there, and again, doesn't necessarily happen overnight. I'm sure there are cases where extreme stress and stuff like that does actually cause something like, I'm forgetting the word right now, so I'm not going to dig for it. But it's something that we sit there and it feels almost instantaneous whenever we look back at how everything just kind of fell into place. And then trying to get out, it's one of those things where looking up, it's like, oh, that's a long way to go. How am I going to do that? You know? And so what you're saying is the small steps is really the best kind of steps out, right? Not one giant leap. It's something a little bit at a time.
I'm saying that definitely. And once you're in that hole, you might need to get some help, because that hole is so deep, you need somebody to give you a ladder to climb out. So you could get a coach, or like somebody like me or somebody else. Definitely can save you so much time, because you cannot dig yourself out. But I'm also saying is start realizing, sure, but I'm digging a hole here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and get out of it while you still knee deep in there, and you can still step out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So what are some of the signs that someone is digging a hole without them really realizing it?
You're unhappy is the first sign.
Ooh.
You're
Okay.
unhappy, you can't sleep. Those are two signs. Or you have this thing milling in your head going over, and you go like, why does this happen? Or those could be already bigger things. But definitely you can't sleep and you're unhappy. There's something bugging you. Because it's our nature, in our nature, is to be happy. That's our natural state of being.
Okay. So, I never really thought about it that way before. It's weird, isn't it? So, it's kind of like we're sitting there and our life is kind of like a acre of a field or something, and we have these little holes or something that we may just stumble upon, and like get it, like we're out of that one real quick and easy, can backfill it or whatever, and then other ones we just kind of trip into and we're just kind of down there for a bit. So, oh man. So if someone is really unhappy with something, it is that look of from within. Just find out what is within yourself that is kind of unhappy, right?
Now, absolutely, absolutely. And it only can be resolved from within. The
Okay.
problem is a lot of people don't like to go within because they are afraid to find out that they're useless, worthless, a nobody, because that's what we learned when we grew up. And I know you work with addictions, right? And it's
Correct.
those things that we now trying to avoid acknowledging or looking at, that we then try to numb with an addiction, or to hide it with an addiction. But if you realize, oh no, this is just, it's my fear-based ego self-talking. We have a part in us that is beautiful and kind and loving. It's connected with the divine, because I do work with spirit to make changes in a non-religious way. And when you start connecting with that and you realize who you really are, then there's nothing to be scared of. There's nothing you can find in there that is not worth finding. You know, you maybe have to throw some rubbish out, but there's a lot of gold and beauty in there.
So, what do you say to the people that think that they're just so not worthy that they can't even accept themselves, right? Because isn't that what stops people from accepting themselves? Because they just maybe are so deep seated in they're not worthy that even if they understood themselves, or maybe they're afraid that they won't understand who they really are. And so it kind of makes them go like, oh, I'm not going to go what I don't know, right? Because it's fear of the unknown. Like, how are they supposed to know who they are if they thought they knew who they were this whole time?
Now that's an interesting question. So let me see, how do you do when you're in that in that state that that you believe you're so unworthy, I'm going to come back to my iThrives. They can definitely assist with changing some of those beliefs by letting go of a lot of things. And then forgiveness is also extremely important, is to forgive, because what made us believe that we were unworthy? Maybe we did something when we were young, or other people did something to us when we were young that made us believe that we were unworthy. And it's about, and then you really do need some help. You need some professional help, support to guide you through those, past those landmines, because you want somebody that knows how to shift those deep-seated beliefs, how to reframe some of the things that happened to you when you were younger. Now, the problem is with the regular talk therapy, you just end up reliving your traumas, and you're going to be stuck in that trauma for even longer, and you're going to rehash it all and feel hurt all over again. So you want to go to somebody like I do. I'm not saying you have to come to me, but of course you're welcome to, of course. But what we do is we go and see what is going on, what happened in your life, and we reframe it. For example, a lot of kids feel they were not wanted, and they might not have been wanted. So when the parents found out that they were expecting you as the baby, they went like, oh no, maybe they were not married, or they didn't have the finances or something, or they even gave you up for adoption. Who knows what they did? But to realize so that's what I do when I work with a person. It's not about they didn't want you. They just didn't know how to deal with parenthood. They didn't reject you as an individual, but they didn't know how to be a parent.
Yeah.
And then you can forgive them for that. You can forgive yourself for causing stress for your parents, because you came unannounced when you thought it was time to come, not when they thought you should be coming. And then forgive yourself for misinterpreting this event as that you're unworthy.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really powerful way to reframe that whole scenario, because a lot of the times, I know for myself, whenever I was going through rehab and I was in therapy, I had a breakthrough moment where I was just like, oh, holy shit. Like, my parents were at the same age I am while I'm in the rehab, and I don't have any kids, but they already had 3 kids. Like, I'm still figuring my stuff out. Like, how am I supposed to expect them to have their stuff together and still be providers and all this? So it really just shook me. I was like, I can't really be mad at them anymore, because they were doing their damnedest, like they were doing their absolute best that they could. So, but that's probably the thing, is that I haven't forgiven myself on some of that stuff.
Exactly.
I just realized that.
Exactly. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was going to say that, because we often forgive other people, but we forget to forgive ourselves for the role we play in that situation. And that can be the role you play as an unborn fetus.
Yeah.
Because your spirit is fully aware of what's going on. It knows what's going on, and it knows exactly how your parents reacted when they found out they were pregnant.
Yeah.
And then you got to, and I've seen it with my clients, that when they forgive themselves for causing stress for their parents by arriving uninvited. Of course they were invited, because if you do this birds and bees stuff, you're inviting something to come, right? As far as I know, I'm a biology teacher, I should know. No, I'm just joking. But the whole thing is, we need to forgive ourselves for the role we played and the stress that we cause. And sometimes the relationship breaks up because of our arrival. Then we need to forgive ourselves for breaking up that relationship as well. And parents have and clients have told me the relief they found from forgiving themselves. At first they go like, well, why should I forgive myself? I said, let's just do the exercise. And if you feel relief afterwards, then you know you needed it. And if you feel nothing, we spend 2 minutes on it. And 90% of them feel so much better after forgiving themselves for it. And then when I work with a client, we don't take like 5 sessions to work on one issue. We'll work maybe 3 issues in one session because it is quick. You don't have to rehash the story. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely need to work on forgiving myself on some of those things because, like, as soon as I noticed that and as soon as you were talking about it, it was like, oh yeah, that's the next step of something that I've probably needed to do for a while. In which there's a bunch of different areas to forgive oneself, right? And it's not necessarily a blanket statement of I forgive myself. You kind of have to get a little specific with it, don't you?
I do like to be specific. Yes. The more specific you can be, the better. Because what happens is, on a biological level, when you hold a grudge, then your body creates neuropeptides for these emotions, and they will hook onto the cell membrane and trigger reactions in the cell. A stress response if you're holding a grudge, which then negatively impacts the health of the cell because now it goes into stress mode. And that neuropeptide will stay there until you resolve it. So when you forgive yourself for a specific thing, it can unlock. I'm sure if you forgive yourself blanketly because you don't know what happened, by all means, a blanket forgiveness is better than nothing.
Yeah.
But if you can be specific, the more specific you are, the more you're unpicking and letting go. And then the cells can go back to a healthy state because they now undo the stress response. And if you're happy, then they can start being healthier and you'll have more energy, you'll have more life force, you'll age more gracefully. All the things that we want, that we're trying to resolve with eating healthily and exercise, will happen if you do the forgiveness work.
Oh,
and if you then eat healthily and do the exercise on top of it, then you're smiling.
That's a real path to happiness, I guess. And thank you for going into the whole like biological aspect of how that works, because someone I spoke with recently, they said that someone else said that the subconscious mind is the body in a sense, I guess. And I was like, ooh, I never thought about it that way. And so that would make sense that if you actually have stuff like that develop underneath certain conditions, that if you recreate that condition or whatever, then your body knows what you're talking about. So that would make sense of why you'd have to get specific in that sense.
And also, I mean, just think of it. If you have a problem, you know you have a problem. And if you say, okay, well, the problem is solved, but you didn't know really what the problem was. But if I said, well, you have a problem because you did not forgive yourself about what you just did with your parents, for example. Then you say, oh, I know what it is. I can imagine it. I can picture it. And you can be so specific. And it's like instead of taking a multivitamin, you laser focus going in and give the body exactly what it needs and pull that out. Taking out that splinter. Yes, it's like taking out that one particular splinter. And then,
Okay. So I guess one of my questions has to be like, how many times have you come across someone that just had a whole bunch of splinters in one spot?
And what would have caused all those splinters in the one spot?
Themselves, really, right?
So you mean they might have specific traumas all linked around specific incidences? Yeah.
Yeah.
That can happen. Yeah, that can happen. And then we just go, that's why I say I'll do several issues in one session, and we'll just go to like, okay, for example, what can happen that you were unwanted because you shocked your parents by arriving. It could be they were fighting during pregnancy. You had some birth trauma on top of it, and some abandonment issues afterwards. And then you can address all of those things by reframing each one, forgiving yourself and the other people for each one. And so you take out all the splinters, and that can be, it's not 5 different doctor's visits. It's just one session. When you go to the doctor, he's not going to take out one and say, come back next week. You can take them all out.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the American healthcare system, the doctor might do that nowadays.
okay, but,
Unfortunately.
and they'll give you lots of pills in between to make more. Yeah. But we're not in that field, right?
Yes, thankfully. And it does make sense to tackle, like if you're in a hole, to go ahead and address as many issues that are in that hole at the same time, right? Because it's one of those things about talk therapy for me was that, like you said, whenever it's like we dig deep and we get to an issue, it doesn't necessarily get resolved all the time. It's like, oh, I'm back here again. And then whenever that one is kind of covered up, it's like, oh, wait, I left something down there, and I have to dig some more stuff up. And it's like, oh, well, I forgot about that. And here we go again. But you're saying that you can actually just take care of something right, and almost like taking out the root, like a weed, right?
Definitely. However, it can happen that you go back, but not necessarily the next time, but then it's a different aspect of it. And it's not like, because I always say, you only need to dig if you trip over something. So you can dig something up, take it out with the root, and then maybe a piece of the root was left behind. Well, if it's not bothering anybody, just leave it there. But if it starts to grow and something comes up, when you go back there, it will never be the exact same issue. Maybe be the same event, but maybe, for example, like in my situation, I was hospitalized as a young baby. I misinterpreted that as abandonment. And then I needed to go back to let go of the belief that I was abandoned. But then another time I go back there because what happened was, when you're that small and you're all of a sudden all alone in a hospital and tied up, then you maybe think, you cut off your emotions. Like, I can't trust anybody because here they are and then they're gone. So now it's difficult to form relationships. So then I go back there and say, okay, but you know what? Let's visualize it differently, because we can actually create a different memory around it. By like, oh, you know what, but the angels were there and they left me there, not because they didn't want me, but because, I was sick and I had to be there. And then you can create a whole new story around what really happened, so that I can now trust forming healthy relationships with others. So I did revisit it, but it was not the abandonment issues. It was now a bit of a trust issue. But it's not that I'm digging every week. I'll dig one day, and then maybe a year later, it came up again.
Okay.
And then
Interesting.
Yeah.
So real quick, where can everyone find you? Because this is one of those things that is just really powerful stuff, and I think a lot of people need to know all about it. So thank you for coming on the show again, by the way.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, and the audience also. Now, the best is to go to claim that free gift. Those iThrives that I have, it includes those forgiveness course. If you want it, you don't have to use it, but by all means, sign up for the iThrives, because it takes 2 minutes out of your time. You just put it on. You can listen to them audibly if you want to hear what I'm saying, but you don't have to. You can play them as a whisper. And then you can get those by going to hannakok.com. So for the people that, I don't know if they can see my name, Hanna, I know English people love the H at the end, so you can either go to Hanna with the H or without the H. And the surname is KOK.com. And then you can go to the sign up page there. and get these iThrives. They are for male and female. So for the men, you definitely
Mm-hmm.
can also benefit from this. And
Okay.
and then you'll be in contact with me automatically. You'll have my email address. You'll have and then that's it. That's the link.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Or you can go to
All right.
hannakok.com. It will take you to that page as well.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
cool.
I typed it in because I was like, I had the iThrive.zone ready to go, and then I was like, oh, I wasn't sure about the hannakok.com, and so I went there and it just popped into iThrive, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, well, nice redirect.
Yes, because it's so much easier to just spell my name for people
Hmm.
than, yeah. But I really, it's just a no-brainer to
Hmm.
use something so simple. I play look, I developed the app for me. I listen to them every day. So, and there are many subjects, but you get the hormone ones. And there are other subjects that are part of a paid version, but you can always decide to sign up for that. Including in
Yeah.
there is one for addiction, actually,
Oh,
in
nice.
the
That's
paid
really
version.
awesome.
Mm.
Uh, well, thank you for the gift for us and the listeners and everything, because this is something that I think can actually do a whole lot of real good, because it's something that people can do for themselves, and they can do it at their own pace. They don't have to feel obligated or anything like that. And so I think that that really creates that good road to healing, you know?
Absolutely. And especially for people with addiction,
Mm-hmm.
that forgiveness is key.
Mm-hmm.
You've
Yep.
got to
Yep.
forgive
Yep.
yourself and others for whatever happened to you that you have been trying to numb with whatever you use as your addiction, if it's a substance or shopping or food or money or whatever it is. You
Mm-hmm.
got to come to a point that you can accept yourself, warts and all, and that's an inside job.
Yeah. Real quick, there was someone that I interviewed not too long ago, and they had said something about just addictions, and they labeled a few of them like Netflix, porn, substances, and alcohol, and stuff like that. And to me, that makes total sense. But someone left a comment on the video saying, like, to classify Netflix and porn in the same category as substance abuse is insane. And I'm sitting here like, no, it's not, because addiction is addiction. Would you agree? Or
Yeah, I totally agree. The thing is that certain things don't have to be an addiction. Like watching
mm,
Netflix doesn't
yep,
have to be addiction. Even watching porn
mm,
does not have to be an addiction. But as
mm,
soon as it costs you more than money, as
mm,
soon as it's starting to destroy your relationships, your health, your
mm,
finances,
mm,
it's an addiction, and then they're all in the same category, and they are all love substitutes.
mm.
We,
Oh, that's a really good way to put that. Huh. Huh.
and why go for a love substitute if you can get the real thing? And the real
Mm,
thing comes from loving yourself and having some sort of connection with the divine that is bigger than you. I mean, I know in the 12 steps they talk about that too, right? But
yeah.
it does not have to be in a religious way. But
Mm,
they found the people that are the happiest are the ones
mm.
that have a trusting,
Divine connection.
supportive, divine connection. Yes.
Mm. I love that. Um, and oh, you really labeled like what an addiction is really well. Like if it costs more than money, like oh, I never thought about it that way, and you're entirely right. If it costs anything more than money, then it is a problem for starters, and if it's a repeated problem, then it becomes an addiction very quick. Ooh, and a substitute for love. I never thought about it that way either, and I'd have to say that even like early on in my early recovery, I didn't have a whole lot of self worth and self love going on. And so it was like kind of that dry drunk kind of thing going on. But then I started really working on myself, and the self love started really showing up. And I was like, oh, I see what it's kind of about now, like what recovery is really about. So, real quick, I know that you do have something that you have to get going for. But do you have any words for our audience today that you want to leave them with? Something that is just, I don't know, off the top of your head, deep in the heart, anything like that?
No matter how dark the hole you feel you're in, getting out of it is not nearly as hard as you think. It's one step at a time. And it starts with making time for you. And there are so many free products and services out there if you're not capable of paying for some service, but you are worth it. The fact that you are here means you're worth it. So, and it's really not that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I also have to ask, do you think that we could see you on the show again in the future? Because I don't know if we've really dug all the way down as far as we can go with this iThrive and everything else. And I'd love to just hear all about it.
I would love to do that. Absolutely. And I'm also busy writing or rewriting the second edition of my book, Bitter or Better. It's your choice. And it's about creating a guide for a happy ever after living. So, yeah.
Okay.
I would love to be back. It would be great.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, I'm looking forward to that a whole bunch, and I really appreciate you being on the show. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I just know that everyone's going to get something out of going to iThrive.zone or hannakok.com and just figuring out what they need for themselves and being able to actually really just actually take steps towards bettering themselves. It's awesome. So thank you for this. It's been a really enlightening conversation, and I've loved it, and I'm looking forward to our next one.
Thank you very much, Keegan, for having me. Thank you. See you next time.
See you.
Okay.
And everyone out there, thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. And as always, love yourself, love those next to you if you can, but you got to love yourself first. And we will see you next week. So just stay cool, not clammy. I was about to say clammy. Don't stay clammy. That's not a good sign. So y'all just stay chilly
Maybe
out there.
stay cool and connected.
Ooh, cool and connected. I like that. Thank you. So everyone out there, see you next week. Schlangefall and there we go. Perfect.
Thank you. That's a perfect